Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Unemployables podcast. We've got a special guest, Kevin Ekmark, with us today, and we had a really, really fantastic conversation, about 40, 50 minutes, and we talked a lot about freedom, kind of not just taking yourself out of the 9 to 5, but kind of building your own way and replacing your income, 4 or 5x, which is something Kevin's done that's really pretty impressive. And he's done things kind of non-traditionally and really done a great job. So thanks so much for joining us this week. Really hope you enjoyed the episode.
Become unemployable.
Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Unemployables podcast. Today, we have our guest, Kevin Ekmark, who is joining us from somewhere in the Denver area. And we're pretty pumped to have Kevin on. I've known him actually offline in person for 4 years, maybe. Since the first time we met, we spent a lot of time at the same co-working space for a few years, and then we've just kept in touch ever since. And Kevin left his 9 to 5 not that long ago, so we're going to dive right in. Kevin, if you'd go ahead and just kind of give us like a short overview of what you've been up to in the last few years and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah. The short overview is pretty funny. So basically, if we go back all the way to college real quick, I left college about a couple months early. I still graduated, but I had like one class left. So I was doing an internship before. That ended up getting me a job before I graduated. Did that, learned SEO, content marketing, all this stuff. In the meantime, I was also going through Secret Service interview process. So it was taking about a year. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How did I not?
Yeah, it was crazy.
Drop that bombshell.
Yeah, it was one of those things where I was like in super good shape at the time, and I was like, I really want to like basically have an excuse to like serve the country and stay in shape for the rest of my life. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So I got about a year into it, got a conditional offer, and then they were like, oh wait, we took everyone that we could already take this year, so you need to start over again. You'll start from where you left off, but it's going to take another year, maybe a year and a half. By that time, I was just getting sick of the regular 9 to 5 job that I was in. Learned a lot there, but ended up starting a company in Atlanta that's called TrustWorks. And so started that with a couple people, some guys who had just been in the industry for a while too. Blew that up to about 400 clients a year, or like monthly recurring clients. And then kind of just got burned out of it. It got to the point where I was like, I'm not a great CEO. I love being an owner, but I am a horrible CEO, and this isn't the right place for me. So I tried to find the right people to take over. In the meantime, I was looking for other opportunities, connected with some friends that played basketball with in middle school and high school, and ended up moving out to Denver. Worked on a couple projects with them, and then that kind of, and took a 9 to 5 while I was doing that too, just to pay the bills. And that ended up turning into me doing my own thing. Still doing some stuff with those guys, but for the most part, I'm on my own.
Nice. I mean, so you haven't really been 9 to 5 employed since before TrustWorks. Like, you've been at this for a hot minute.
Yeah, for sure. It's, like with TrustWorks, it's, I didn't have full like ownership of it. So I'm still depending on, salary from it. So it wasn't like a full on, like, man, I'm struggling. Like, I can still buy groceries and everything. It definitely didn't have that fear of what I had on Labor Day weekend this last year, 2018, when I'm like, holy crap, I gotta make some money.
Let's get into that more. How'd you wind up in that situation on Labor Day?
Yeah, so I had probably like January of last year, like January 2018, I started just feeling like this isn't me being 9 to 5 just isn't a great fit. Like, I'm a horrible employee. Like, it's just
that's how I feel too.
I look at problems and I'm like, I could solve this way better than that person, but they want me to solve it this way because of the process. But I have my own processes that I guess I believe in more.
Yeah.
And then there's also a limit to how much I could make being a 9 to 5, right? And there's ways to get around it, but without diving too deep into that right now, I was just feeling like I was a little bit trapped in it. And so I started making that process of like, what am I going to do next, or how is this going to evolve, back in January last year. And then in certain events just started, pushing it further and further and further. Eventually the guys I was working for were like, hey, we don't have a job for you anymore. And it happened to be like 2 weeks before I was about to say like, hey, this isn't a great fit. So it worked out timing.
Nice. Yeah.
And I already had some clients lined up and some work lined up, so it didn't hurt too bad.
Yeah. And then you wound up, like, how'd you wind up struggling to make ends meet on Labor Day? Was that a little bit of hyperbole?
It was a little bit of a hyperbole.
Okay.
I mean, I was ready for that jump. So like I had clients lined up.
Yep.
So the first 30 days I ended up like away from the 9 to 5. I ended up matching my old salary that I had.
Hell yeah.
And then every month after that, I was just trying to increase it, little by little.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm about 4 to 5xing it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So
fun times.
yeah, man. No, that's awesome. That's the dream, right? Like,
yeah.
Take a couple months, like really, for lack of a better term, eat shit, and then be doing very well.
For sure. And it was before we made that jump too. I'm married, and I talked to my wife about it. When we were building TrustWorks, it was a similar situation. Like, hey, like we're gonna have to eat shit for a little bit.
Yeah.
And like, so our date nights were Whole Foods cafeterias. I was eating peanut butter and jelly twice a day.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of stuff. And it was worth it. We ended up being able to save 40-50% of our income, and it worked out. And so before we made this jump, it was like, hey, are you willing to take a couple steps back again to do this? And she was all in.
Nice. Because she had that belief
that helps
the first time. Yeah.
Well, and it helps that your wife is a little bit of a hustler too, right?
Yeah. She gets it.
Yeah.
So she's also a dance teacher. So she understands what working hard is, and a lot of times you don't get a lot of recognition for it too. But she hustled her way into the job she really, really wanted when she came out here. And super proud of her and for what she's doing.
Good for her. What's that job?
She's a dance teacher.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, but she's also ends up being a partner in our family business. And so I let her be the CEO of it. I just focus on driving some income.
Actually, I think that's an interesting thing to talk about, Kevin, is why is she 50-50 partner? I know that she does some of the work, but I know you and I have talked offline about like some of the tax ramifications behind that. And I think that that's something that's super interesting to talk about too.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about being away from all this stuff is there's a lot more freedom with your tax minimization. And if you can find an accountant that's understands your goals and like what you're trying to achieve, then it ends up working out really well. So like her being 50-50 partner allows us to legally write off a significant amount of stuff, because when you're and I picked up this part from Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you guys have ever read that, it's a great book. It's been around for a while. But his accountant and Robert Kiyosaki were both talking about how, make your partner your actual partner in your business, because you talk about business all the time anyways, and you're making business decisions together anyways when you're doing this stuff solo. So what ends up happening is like we have business dinners a lot. When we travel, we so like this is skipping a few steps, but like when we travel, we go looking for properties to invest in, and so we're doing that together, so we can write off a significant portion of our trips, right? Because we're doing a lot of business while we're there, but we're also having fun while we're there, right?
Yeah.
So it's it makes the vacation time a little bit more strategic, right? But like we're also always thinking about how can we make more money.
Yeah.
So it's making your spouse a partner ends up working out really well tax wise.
Nice. And it also kind of works out in the sense that like she's directly invested in whether or not the business succeeds. It's not like an indirect thing. It's like directly, and that's cool.
Yeah. Any of the big decisions we make together. So even like when we're looking at these properties to buy, if I'm all gung ho about it and she's like, no, this sucks, I would never live here. We're not touching. So it's an interesting way to look at it. I wouldn't do it unless you really, really love your spouse.
Yeah, no, that's a thing. Like you got to really, really be like that next level. But it's one of those things where like if things work, you can double down on it, and it just keeps working more and more the more you double down on it.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And
cool.
we wouldn't be able to do that either if, before, we're skipping a little bit again, before we moved out to Denver, and I was like, I'm really burned out from being a CEO. I want to jump into this next thing. We listed out all of our real life goals for the first time.
Good.
Like 5 years after being married. So being aligned with, what are we going to, like, what do we want to make? Why do we want to make more money? What are we going to do with that? All that stuff. And we really started structuring out the why behind like income growth.
Yeah.
And so like that helped align all of our stuff for what we're doing now.
Cool. I remember that. Well, Daniel, go.
Yeah, I'm super curious now, just kind of rewinding the clock a little bit to your days at Trustworks and how you came to the realization that you were a better owner than a CEO. Like, how did you figure that out? What would you say are, the biggest differences that you see between those two kind of titles and positions? And then why do you think one kind of resonated better with you than the other?
Yeah. I think a CEO needs to have a pretty strong pulse on like what's happening with their people. My personality is I love doing the work. So like getting into SEO, getting into client calls, getting into strategy building. And then I found my way moving further and further away from that and more into like trying to balance revenue growth and also handling and nurturing relationships within the company. And to me, like when I start working on stuff, I get super focused and I realize like I have to zero in on this SEO project or this sales call. And I just started feeling like I was neglecting my team more. Which to grow that team more and more, you really have to have someone who's watching it all the time, like making sure everyone's doing well, making sure they're feeling supported, making sure they have the tools to succeed, all that stuff. And it was just a juggle of things that I was like, I'm not great at this. I need to find someone else who can do this.
Yeah, I get that. The job I just left, I wasn't at all owner or CEO in any way, but there was the growing tension for me that like I was leading a team, but I was becoming more and more separated from actually having my hands on and in the work, which I hated. And I was like, I guess this is what corporate leadership is, because it was a very large organization. It was like the more of a leader you became and the bigger the organization got, it was more like levels of bureaucracy that just kept getting added, and you were expected to create all these reports and report to the people above you and around you about all this stuff that other people were doing and the results they were creating, because they were the ones actually doing the work. So you had to do that. And then you had to keep a pulse on like, are they happy? Do they like me as a boss? Do they feel like they're being poured into? Are they looking for another job? Like, are you building a culture within your little team? And I was just like listen, I can have a conversation with my coworkers all day. Like we can laugh and have that kind of culture, but like I don't care if they're gonna stay or like I
Yeah.
want to have my hand. I want to do the work.
That's so
Like that's the reason there's a business to begin with, is because there are people doing the work to serve these customers, and I'm being removed from that, and that's just dumb. I don't like.
Right.
I didn't want a part of that, so I get that. That resonates with me.
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me because I'm totally opposite. I'm like, I would so much rather have a team of people who are specialists that can do SEO, that can do like Facebook ads, that can do the product creation, that can do everything. And I'm just like, I would love to be in the situation where like I'm putting people in those spots and like helping them grow and like keeping that team together. It's crazy. We're all kind of wired differently like that.
Well, it's worth saying I used to think that that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Before I had that experience, I was like, yeah, like I want to be a leader at a company. Like I want to do that thing. It seems like a great thing to strive for. And, and then I got into the thick of it and what it actually looks like in a corporate environment. And I was like, this is dumb. I don't like this at all. It's nothing, because like in a corporate environment, it's much different than a startup environment. And even Kevin, at Trustworks size, like I feel like you guys were growing and getting to that point where you guys had enough people that that's why you were starting to feel that tension. But on a team where there's like 4 people, which is what I'm really used to, like it's a little bit different because you're kind of doing all of that. Like you have your hands in the work while you're also kind of keeping a pulse on everyone around you. And it's a little bit different. There's not as much bureaucracy, and especially if like you own the company outright, like you can keep that kind of owner CEO mentality without it being painful yet, because it's still small.
Right, exactly. And part of it's how you grow it too. Putting into place like, hey, I'm going to be the CEO and just find the right people, and they're going to go make the hiring decisions. They're going to go, chase down the customers or like manage the team. And then my focus being, what do the numbers look like? Is the mission on track? So like when we were doing that rapid growth, it was not set in stone that like I had these people to take care of what I needed them to take care of, and I was trying to take care of all of it, and it just wasn't working out for me.
Mm-hmm.
So when you've kind of transitioned from one thing to the next, do you feel like it's always kind of been obvious what you wanted to do next? Or do you feel like you've kind of gone from one thing to stumbling into the next to stumbling into the next?
When we made the decision to move on from the agency in Atlanta, that was a year before I actually did it. And so it was like I knew I needed to make a transition and make a change. And I'm just going to keep my eyes open and my heart open to opportunities. And that's kind of how everything just kind of evolved. And that's how it keeps evolving. Whether it's like we acquired a couple websites, when I made this other change, this last one, and those kind of just fell in my lap. So I didn't know that was going to happen. It just happened, and it's been great. That's kind of how getting out to Denver was. Like we were originally saying, I will never move to Denver. We happened to visit Denver on like the absolute like worst day to do it.
It was like one of those a year.
Yeah, it was one of those a year, and it was like 4 degrees, like wet, weird snow. It wasn't like powdery snow. Like I can go when we have a good fresh powder, I can go take my my leaf blower and clear my driveway.
Yep.
But this was heavy, like just nasty snow.
Yeah.
My wife and I were just like, no, we're never moving here. This place sucks.
Now you're here. It's awesome.
Yeah, dude, I'm never moving back.
Yeah.
So these things just kind of evolved over time. It was like, this seems like a great opportunity, and we'll just hustle our way through it. I feel like as I've grown older, I'm a little bit more strategic with it. Like, all right, here's what I want to do with this exact opportunity. Here's what I want to do with this project. So I can see it through to where I like actually build a plan on how we're going to monetize this, how we're going to exit.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I had a conversation with a guy who's kind of turned entrepreneur. Do you know Joe Garcia in Atlanta?
Possibly.
He was involved with Root Radius for a while. He's
Yeah.
working on that North Forsyth Brewing Company.
Okay, nice.
But he and I were on the phone like a week ago, and I was just kind of talking to him because he's a more successful guy in his late 30s or early 40s. So I was just on the phone because I like to get advice and hear the stories of people who are further down the road than I am, just to see what I can learn from them. So I kind of asked him, I was like, you feel like you stumble into the next thing, or you always have a calculated move? He kind of said the same thing, like this brewery thing. He was working for a real estate company doing marketing and kind of doing ads and media stuff around Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had this friend, and they went and he was like, hey, let's hang out. And he was talking about how he was always loved craft breweries, and that he's always kind of had a business plan for one in his back pocket. And this friend he was talking to came back to him like a week later and was like, hey, talk to my wife. We want to do a brewery with you.
Nice.
And so now they're starting the first brewery in this county north of Atlanta. And he told me the business plan for it, and it sounds great. It's like infusing Chick-fil-A with a brewery, more or less.
Nice.
Like, here's your beer, my pleasure.
That's a win-win.
Right.
So it's basically a brewery, but it's closed on Sundays.
Really?
I bet it'll be open on Sundays. But the fact that he kind of said the same thing, like I think to a lot of people, it seems like it can feel like you're stumbling into the next thing. But I think from the outside looking in at stories like yours and like Joe's and some other guys who have kind of left the 9-to-5 grind, I think it's more of a result. It might feel like stumbling, but I think it's more of a result of putting up guardrails and intentional connection points along their path that ultimately lead them to these opportunities, like the stuff you're doing now that's like you 4 or 5x your income. And
Right.
I don't know that when you started, you probably didn't fathom that, right? Like you dreamed about it, but you weren't like, nah, that's going to happen within 7 months.
I didn't realize it was going to happen this fast.
Right.
I think when I made the jump, it was, I sat down with my wife and I was like, I'm done. Like I'm done making up to this amount, and we're just going to blow it up. Like that's the goal. Blow it up and make as much as possible. And that kind of just goes into our goals of like
Scorched earth.
Yeah, this jumps over into our goals, right? So if we want, part of our life goal is we want to make money to have freedom. So we realized we need X amount of dollars to have that freedom from worry, freedom to, provide the best opportunities for our kids, freedom to travel together, freedom to like go take a month off and go do whatever we want. And then freedom to give. And so we realized like, man, we're not making enough money to like even give to our church really. And so it became a situation where as we've grown over the past few months, it was like, I've got a whiteboard over here with all my goals on it. Like, how do we've got we donate to Compassion International. And so like right now we have like one kid, but like it's 24 kids on a page that need to be adopted. So our goal for the end of the year is 24 kids. And then there's 1,600 kids who need to be adopted or sponsored on Compassion. If you look at any given time, that's a little under $1 million a year and stuff. And so the goal is to eventually take care of all that stuff.
Wow.
So like we want to grow really, really big. Someone was asking me like, when is it enough? And like, I don't know. Like when there stops being like a need. And that goes to like giving outside of our family, giving within our family. Like, my dad ended up being diagnosed with cancer this year. And what killed me was that I didn't start thinking this way until a few months ago.
Yeah.
Because if I had started thinking that way, like he could have retired earlier. I could have paid for his cancer treatment. Like we could have like taken like a badass trip together, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like shit happens. And so like to plan for that, we got to get rich because I would rather have shit happen and be rich than shit happen and be poor.
Yeah. 100%.
And so that's how we just take care of people and ourselves.
You know what? Maybe it is though kind of an interesting thing. Like you bring up your dad, and like, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But maybe it is something like that event that like makes you actually make that transition in your own head to like thinking that way.
Yeah.
Where you can conceptualize it all you want and be like in my shoes, I can think about that too. Like, what if my dad got cancer? It's like, all right, well, like you said, much rather be rich and have the money to handle it and be like, dude, I got you. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
But like in my own head, that doesn't feel real. Like
Right.
it doesn't feel like a real possibility, even though it really is. I mean, he's 56 now, maybe 57. He's getting up there. He's like it's possible that he starts getting sick with that or something else. Maybe it would actually take that to like change that. So like, yeah, you can look back on it and be like, damn, I wish I had thought of this earlier. But like, would you really have? You know?
Right. Well, the funny thing is, like, when the day that I parted ways with my job is also the day that I found out my wife was pregnant.
Funny, man.
So like, you know, basically I came home at noon and she was like, "Hey, yeah, I'm pregnant." Guess what I found out when you left this morning.
And
it's real.
As somebody who's been there and having the whole, not that same exact situation where I was still employed, but like the realization of like, oh shit,
Yeah.
I'm going to be responsible for not just us, like I can take care of us, but like, okay, now I've got the next 18 years to think about responsibility and providing financially so that kid is set up for success, and he's going to be expensive as hell.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like all these things we're talking about are just like when they those are the kind of catalysts in your life that when they happen, they're fuel to the fire.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if you've probably already got a little bit of a fire stoked inside you, but then you add something like that and it's like, listen, I have got to get this shit done. I've got to. Like, there's no other option. It's whether you look at that as fuel for your fire, chip on your shoulder, or whatever floats your boat. But that's kind of what it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. It was that's where it was like, we're not just going to survive; we got to thrive.
Yeah,
it really comes down to like, we got to get rich, just to take care of all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it triggers that. It's taking care of life. It's, you know, I don't know if I like just being married. We have life insurance and everything, but if I get hit by a bus, can't work, or if I die, you know, I'm leaving my wife and my kid with, you know, a pretty small, in the grand scheme of things, life insurance policy, right? It's not going to take care of them for their life.
Yeah.
So we started thinking about that. Like, I got to make more money really fast, because like, if I die in 3 years, how are they going to produce income after that? Because she gave up a lot to come out here with me.
Yeah.
Like, she teaches and dance and loves that, but it's not going to provide the same lifestyle that she would have like right now.
Yeah.
So, all that kind of stuff, you start thinking about it, right? Like when you start losing your job, you have a kid on the way, you're married, your dad gets cancer, and you're like, I gotta make a ton of money.
Yeah.
I have to. I happen to be good at it, and I love it too. Because like,
that's what matters. Like, I think a lot of people, and I know we've been talking about the money and it's incredibly important, but I think that a lot of people get so wrapped up in the dollar signs that they ignore the passion. And like, you've got that passion for what you're doing, and that's why I think the money comes. You know?
Yeah. The money doesn't matter unless you have a goal behind it,
Right.
too, right? Like a mission behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the auto show, and I found out that I could finally get the car I like have always wanted. And I looked at it and I was like, this is just such a waste of money. Like, it was my dream car. It was a dream car until I saw it, and I was like, this is stupid. Like, this isn't in line with our family goals at all. And like, it's not going to take, this isn't going to take care of us for the rest of our life. It's just I always tell my wife, like, there's stupid money, and then you can be stupid with money, right? And the people who are stupid with money are the ones who like go out and get a 2-door car, that they can't afford. And the ones who have stupid money are the ones who have a 2-door car and a 4-door car and a Range Rover and whatever, because it doesn't matter anymore. Like, because they got so much money, it's stupid.
Yeah.
So like when you're trying to compare yourself to those people, like you can fake being rich as all you want. But the way they got there was they focused on their goals, right? They're like, I gotta get more, because I got family to take care of. I got my church to take care of. I got whatever to take care of.
Right. You got a legacy to build.
Money. Yeah.
Like you got people around you that you would rather make their life better and easier than you would buying yourself a toy.
Right.
Even if you really wanted that toy. And I've heard that happens. I haven't gotten there myself yet, but like I've heard that like from a lot of people that you always want a car or a house or a boat or whatever it is. And then you get to the point where you have the money for it. You don't really want it anymore. You kind of understand the value of that dollar. And it's like, did it really take me 3 months to earn the money for that Lamborghini? Like, I really need that, like.
Yeah, it's stupid.
What was the car, Kevin?
It was an Aston Martin.
Whoa, fancy. Mr. James Bond over there.
Yeah, but you can't be like, we're not in a position to be stupid with money, right? Like it's
not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
But the goal is to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's off mission, right? So like I think with our mission,
that's good.
I can't do that until my money's making baby money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's funding everything else. So
yeah.
Till that point, like I'm driving a Nissan that's falling apart.
Nice.
I'd still be driving my Nissan that was falling apart if I hadn't gotten T-boned.
Oh, yeah.
I had a question and I totally forgot. Nick, do you have something?
Yeah. How do you kind of decide like what is on mission and what isn't? Like, how do you, because obviously while you can't just be all work, right?
Yeah.
So like you do need to buy yourself some maybe you don't need to, but like, I think it's not a bad thing to buy yourself some toys every now and then, right? Maybe not a Martin, but like a good trip or like a new car or maybe something like that. Like, how do you decide what is worth the money in something like that and what's not?
Yeah, for sure. So that's a good question. So this is stuff like I think about all the time, because when I do see someone drive, like I love cars. And so like when I see someone driving a nice car, I'm like, man, that's awesome. Like I would love to have that. But it's not, I'll never buy a car. Like I'll never do the whole like used car thing again. I'll never buy a brand new car again. I'm leasing for the next one. And the reason is because I don't want to buy a depreciating asset.
Right.
Something that's going to just keep losing money.
Mm-hmm.
And I care about cash flow. So I've got to keep cash flow going so that I can buy the next thing. So I'll take a step back. What I'm doing with everything is like we set up a flow of cash. So like right now I've got my first flow is my agency work. So that's like working with other agencies. We're working on like one-off projects and just doing SEO and SEM for people. And so like that's my number one priority. And then I took that money and created a second business with it.
Nice.
So the idea with that one is it's a little bit more passive. I barely have to touch it. I've got it set to where it's basically autopilot, and I've got friends who are watching it too. And so we're taking all that money and then putting that into a third flow, which will be completely passive.
So you're kind of stacking, right? You've got your active one that's your work. Then you've got a passive one that's just bringing in a little bit more where you reinvested it. And then you've got a totally passive one that you're just reinvesting that money.
Yep. So almost every single dollar that we have is going back into something that's going to earn more money so that we can have all that fun.
Yeah.
But like you said, like you need to have some fun. So we do pretty simple things in our house. Like I said before, we're willing to take a few steps back. So like we go to Whole Foods for dates and we still go on nice dates. Or like we take little trips. I mean, we're in Colorado. So the nice thing is like you can drive to an amazing place. And like
It's
super cheap. Like it's
yeah.
maybe you pay for gas, and it's like the most beautiful place.
Yeah.
But there's also little things like we took a beach trip last month. It turned it into a little bit of a work trip. And there's little things like that. We value time together more than anything. So like little travel stuff, we'll keep doing.
So really the big thing for you is experiences over things. And
for now, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for now.
That's a little asterisk.
Not just as much as the next guy.
Yeah, we love travel. That's our thing. So exploring new things and exploring cultures. So like figuring out how we can fund those trips in the future is a huge goal.
If you're looking for a new date night location, have you heard of Izakaya Ronin?
No.
It's a sushi den in Rhino.
Oh, nice.
And it's got a speakeasy in the basement.
Oh, nice.
It's awesome. So if you're interested, let me know. I'll send you like details and everything for it. But
yeah,
one of my favorite places in Denver, and you've got the money for it. I don't.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, no, it's good.
If I can keep my flows going.
So Kevin, what do you do today? Like we talked a little bit about, what you used to do with SEO work and TrustWorks, and then the work you did, leading up to September when you were kind of set free really on your own. So what have you been doing in those months since?
So since then, we have our Ekmark Family LLC, which is basically I run most of my consulting stuff through that. So I do a lot of consulting stuff, a lot of hands-on work too. Work with a badass agency in Atlanta right now, doing a lot of stuff with them. They're phenomenal. They do a lot of more high-end B2B stuff. So way bigger than what I was doing before with like TrustWorks, which is nice because I love those guys and they're not competitors. And then, so that's mostly my first flow. So like I wake up, work on that, and I stay up late working on that. The other part is we built out a kind of like a SaaS company. So we built out a piece of software that helps with lead gen. So basically like we buy media, send a lead through. So maybe someone's looking for a personal loan or a mortgage, or help with their debt. And then we built out the software that allows us to deploy like hundreds of sites if we wanted to within 5 seconds, and run traffic to it. And then we route all that traffic to banks, other buyers who want that information. And so we just sell that all day. Sell leads. So that's the second flow.
That's great. What profession have you not ever done, like that you would really love to explore or try? Like put aside real estate because that doesn't count. Since you're kind of dabbling in the waters, but like put SEO aside, put aside this kind of lead gen stuff that you're doing. Is there anything else that you've always been interested in and never jumped at?
So the real estate thing is the number one thing I like. Since I was 15 years old, I'd always wanted to do that. I knew I wanted to buy properties and rent them out. It's why I went to college. So other than that, man, I don't know. I don't know. That's to me, like that's from what I know now about that stuff in that world, it's kind of lit a fire even more into that.
Yeah.
That opportunity.
So you don't want to start your own craft brewery out there?
And I dabbled with that idea back in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, like my favorite brewery is like 5 minutes away. So, and I'm surrounded by like maybe 10 other breweries.
There's so many everywhere.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So like, I don't want to compete with them.
Right.
Yeah, it's just too much to compete with right now. Like
the brewery space in Denver is really interesting. I worked at a startup up in Longmont, a startup brewery. Because the owners got into it pretty bad. And I think we're going to have one of those old owners on the podcast here soon.
Nice.
But it's an interesting little community because everyone's like buddies. It's like us against the man, but everyone's competing with each other. And it's
Yeah.
like, one day this market's going to start shifting a little bit and all of you are going to start getting real cutthroat.
Yep. Yeah, it really is. It's super friendly. Like everyone has a little tap takeover at their competitor's place. You know, they all do stuff together. It's cool to see the support, but you're right. Like at some point, like
there's a saturation point coming where they're going to start cannibalizing each other.
Oh, 100%. And it's going to be really cool to watch.
Yeah.
In a real kind of like give the kids toys and watch them fight each other kind of a thing. Like it's going to be an interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Around here.
And there's so much good beer too.
Oh man.
It's like, it's tough. I mean, yeah, it's rare to find like a brewery. Like I'm like, man.
Yeah, they've all got at least one beer that's really good.
Oh man, I can name a few off the top of my head. Back in Atlanta, I hate.
Out here.
It has got garbage beer. Ugh.
You just need to visit Denver, man.
Did you ever go to Red Hair in Marietta?
Yeah, I went to Red Hair like right when they opened up.
Dude, I hate all their stuff.
Oh man, they used to do some
They
really
don't
cool stuff.
I mean, I don't care. Like all their stuff tastes the exact same. It doesn't matter what beer it is. It has the same super bitter note as soon as you take a bite, as soon as you take a sip, and then it like blossoms into whatever the other flavors are. But I hate that front bitter. Oh, it's just garbage. I hate it so much.
So I like their brown ale. Like, and I never bought it in the can, but when they first opened, they would do some really cool experimental stuff with their brown ales.
Yeah.
And so they would make like Imperials, and they did a Jif peanut butter one, and then like a peanut butter chili pepper one that was insane. Doesn't taste, it doesn't sound appetizing, but it was
peanut butter. There's a peanut butter porter out here from Liquid Mechanics that's unbelievably good. Unbelievable.
Nice.
Yeah, I've kind of stopped drinking beer, so.
Like they don't take care of their yeast. It's either the yeast or the hops that'll spit that out. I think it's the yeast. One thing that they keep messing up with everything.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get back on topic here.
Kevin, what's something you're not very good at? Like something that you consistently see yourself outsourcing?
Oof. All right, if I can outsource managing people, that'd be great.
I think you answered that question earlier.
Yeah.
Do you work with any VAs or how many like smaller contractors?
No, so yeah, we work with smaller contractors for sure. So like what I've started to do with my consulting stuff is I have brought in other people to help me out. Whether it's like I usually get a project running and then they have a roadmap and then I just have them report back to me. And then the agency, like the bigger agency I work with in Atlanta, like they just take up all my attention almost. But I love them. So like it's fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll never outsource that part, but like the other stuff, because I've worked with so many people, I've trained most of them. And so I can say like, hey, I've got this work for you. How much can you take this month? And so I've got a pretty good lineup of people that like I know and trust because I've trained them.
Nice.
SEO and SEM. So like the nice thing is I can keep growing this at least, I don't know, maybe 20 or 30 more clients without actually worrying. And so it's there. That to me is probably one of the best things to outsource as like myself, just because I've already like put that knowledge out there. I don't outsource my payroll. I don't outsource my bookkeeping yet, but that's also because like I'm looking at my books every day, twice a day.
Yeah.
So like every little mile that I drive, every little expense, I want to make sure it's categorized correctly. Want to make sure if I did use it for personal use, I'm splitting it up between business and personal correctly. And like no one knows that stuff as well as I do. So I haven't given that up yet.
Yeah, that's good.
That's probably gonna be the first thing I outsource. I'm like,
yes.
I look at it, and every time I do, I'm like, this is horrible.
So there's some really good bookkeeping guys out there. I can connect you with later.
Might need you to. I purposefully distance myself from that because I ride, I guess, a little bit more on like the philosophical side of everything. Like it's like I don't know if that's the right word for it, but I've noticed that when I start getting too focused on the accounting and the dollar signs and the profit margins and all that, I kind of lose sight of everything, and I get too zeroed in on it, and I kind of
Yeah,
lose track of where the company's really going, like on a more philosophical note, if that
for
makes
sure.
sense.
Yeah, you'd be a great CEO.
Probably, yeah, like that's probably it. I'd be horrible in charge of finance. Like I am awful at finances.
Yeah.
So bad. Like my personal budget, I set it and I blow it 2 days later. Like I get better about it.
Yeah. I think part of it is like, so one of the best things I ever did with TrustWorks is I went through sales training. That's what like helped us blow up, is because I went from like just being a marketer who could like run ads and run some SEO stuff to figuring out sales, which
Yeah.
also like really changed my marketing game because I knew the angles I could run, like the kind of stuff that would make people like jump in and fill out a form or call. And then
Right.
my close rate went up way faster too. So like at that point, all you're caring about is like I know I can hit my numbers because of just the volume of sales I'm doing. Like, and so I just stopped worrying about that stuff at that point and worried about growing the company in a healthy way.
Yeah. I think that's my next step is getting better at sales. I think that's my current choke point. And once I
That
break
would
through
be.
that,
There's some awesome programs out there. They all do like the same thing. Like the idea, like I've gone through two of them. I'll
programs
probably
like teaching programs, coaching.
yeah, yeah. So I've done Sandler sales. I've done some Cardone sales. And so like the philosophy behind them all is pretty much similar. Um, and the way you attack like questions and actually like closing the sale. But man, it changes everything.
Yeah.
I think if small business owners like went through real sales training, they would be so much more successful.
So like if there was one thing you would recommend to any struggling small business owner or someone trying to make it, it would be learn sales.
Learn sales.
Yeah. Good.
Because I think when you learn sales, you learn processes too. So you can translate everything you're learning from the sales to figuring out the rest of your business, like the hiccups, the bottlenecks, all that stuff.
It makes you better with people too.
Yep.
Yeah.
It sure does. It makes you a better listener because you're not going to close anything if you're not listening.
Yeah.
Mm.
Definitely.
Please
That
don't.
hard way.
That sounds like a marriage lesson.
It's funny, man.
Yeah.
Sales.
Not going to close on her if you don't listen to her.
Right.
It's funny. Sales, like interpersonal dynamics, just as a whole, all of it, game, sales, like making your relationships better, like with your women in your life, with the men in your life, with anyone. It's like it's all the same. It's all like psychology, dealing with people, making other people feel good, and being happier to have you around. It's cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's all the stuff like the cool thing about being in Denver too is I do a lot of business with people who are local.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get to go meet at breweries. Like I'm kind of beard out this week, which sucks because I'm also like on a diet. So like I've got another meeting after this at another brewery. Like the fun thing though is that it's so relationship driven. Like I can go have beers with my clients and the people I'm doing business with, or people who are like buying stuff from me.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the relationships and trust. If I
Yeah,
can have that relationship with someone, I'm willing to work a lot harder for them and with them to make something work out.
definitely.
So like that whole trust factor in that relationship just takes everything to the next level.
Definitely. Denver's a funny place because you'll have meetings where you're discussing like hundreds of thousands or $1 million deals, and everyone's wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and you're at a brewery. Like
Yep.
it's so casual out here. It's cool.
Yes. Yeah, I think I was the only one at this last meeting that wasn't wearing a baseball hat at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe Jim Schwartz too.
Yeah. Even when I go out, like I don't know how it is in the South, but like out here, it's like when you go out to the bars, like when people wear button downs, it's like, what are you doing? Put a t-shirt on.
That's the first thing we noticed when we moved out here. Like
Yeah.
So like I had built up like a nice little wardrobe from having to run the agency, and so I had like all these nice button downs and some nice jeans and some boots.
That's my mental.
We got here.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Like, I'm lucky if I'm wearing jeans today just because I'm going to go on a business meeting.
Yeah.
But usually, like, I'm wearing t-shirts and sweatpants probably, and like, it's 70 degrees outside. If it was 50 degrees, I'd still be wearing the same thing, but I'll be wearing flip-flops, hat. It's just a better life, man. It's just so relaxed.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. But all right, we've got a couple more minutes, and then we gotta get this wrapped up. So, is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
I got a question for them.
There you go, dude.
Oh, perfect.
Go ahead.
So, like back in September, what do you wish you had known back then when you were making that transition to all these new projects and growing your income so significantly? What do you wish you'd known then that you know now?
It's a good question. I probably would have. I wish I worked harder and faster to do everything faster.
Yeah.
Because I can look back and see where I missed some steps just because I maybe was overthinking things, right? And so I could have brought in more clients. I could have started automating things faster too to make up more room and more opportunities to take on income growth. And then on the second flow, we were able to fail really fast, right? Because we're just paying for traffic a lot of the time. So you start learning really fast on that. But I wish I had kind of pushed harder on it, learned faster.
Mm-hmm.
There's always room for going faster.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I get from a lot of people when we ask that kind of a question. It's always like, I wish I had pushed a little harder, learned a little faster, been willing to fail a little bit more. Sprinted a little bit more, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I think
definitely a lesson I need to learn.
I had it in me. Yeah.
I mean, Ricky Bobby always said, if you're not first, you're last. So
that's right, man.
I'm down here in Alabama, so I got to live and die by that saying.
That's right.
Well, cool, Kevin. Before you go, how can people find you? You got a website, social media?
Yeah, funny story. If you go to my website, you'll find out why I'm not on social media right now. But my website is kevinekmark.com.
Okay.
And then ekmarkfamily.com is the other one.
Okay.
So yeah, go out and find me. Yeah,
we'll let them know. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate your insights and everything. And I know I have stuff to go walk away from and learn. So that's only a good sign for the people listening too.
Awesome. Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kevin.
All right, man. Take care.
Become unemployable.